And it looks like dog reactivity.
Yes.
Okay. And then inside the home at the window when she sees her friends, I believe it was.
Yeah, so like she like basically I was in Michigan a lot this summer and there's like a porch with like a glass door. So like even if she saw my parents' dog through the glass door, she would like freak out.
Okay. And did they interact ever?
Well they used to be like really good friends,
Okay.
like played all the time, would like sleep next to each other. Um and then yeah, now like she can't even really be in the same room with her without freaking out.
Okay. So after you started to see this behavior, did you try uh socializing them or did you just say no and kept them separate?
Well, it first started with my old roommate's dog, is when she first started being like aggressive, which she was friends with that dog too.
Okay.
And then they kind of, I still let them hang out a little bit because it didn't seem that often.
Okay.
But then it started to become more often, so then they weren't allowed to hang out anymore.
Okay.
But she was still friends with my parents' dog, and now, so they would still hang out. And then she freaked out on my parents' dog a couple of times, and then it just got too bad that now she can't be in the same room.
When you started to see the aggressive behavior with your friend's dog, um, was it like they were hanging out together and then all of a sudden she just like started barking at the dog? What did that look like?
She like freaks out. It's not even like barking, like a snarly noise. Yeah, like jumps at them. I don't think she ever really bites them or anything,
Uh-huh.
but she's like really like, and then her hair stands up, and she's yeah.
Okay. Um, and what did you do in response to that behavior?
I'd usually just grab her and pull her away.
Okay. And then you put her in a different room?
Yeah,
Okay.
or separated her, or just held her for a little bit because she's small until she seemed to calm down. I also have, she's like not like terribly trained. Like I ever trained with like one of those like climb beds to stay on.
Okay.
And so I would put her on there sometimes and just have her stay on there. And she would definitely be like on edge and like staring at the other dog, but would stay on.
Okay. Um, how old is she now?
She'll be like 3 next month,
Okay. And then at what age did this start?
probably about a year ago.
Okay, so 2 years.
Yeah.
So there was your friend's dog first, and that progressively became worse, or like um, more of a habit, I guess. And then she'll still fight with your parents' dog, but then it just so they're like, were they playing or were they just hanging out? And all of a sudden, she's just like spazzes out and then goes.
They were playing. Honestly, my theory is he flipped out on her first,
And
like
then she
the first
reciprocated.
time, and she responded.
Mm-hmm.
And then she just started doing it without him doing anything.
Well, what did he freak out at her at over?
His food bowl.
Resource guarding. Okay.
Yeah. So um she used to just like wait kind of around the corner while he was eating so she could lick it when he was done. And then yeah. He
Okay. But then once he triggered on her, it became more prevalent. And then with your parents' dog, same thing. She started that, not your parents' dog.
correct. My parents' dog, like even if she would flip out on my roommate's dog, he would like get mad back. My parents' dog is just like nothing.
Sure.
He just gets scared and lays there.
Okay. What kind of dog is he?
My dog's a French bulldog. My parents have a lab,
Lab. Okay. Older lab or
like 1 year older than she is.
okay. So
Yeah,
all right. So there's those two, and then who else?
those are the. She's like only mean to I think dogs she's used to be friends with.
So like, if you take her, like, does she go to a dog park?
No, but we have lots of dogs in our neighborhood, and I'm a little nervous because I don't know. I guess,
Okay.
but she's on her leash, and She just seems excited to see them. She doesn't seem like she's gonna like freak out at them.
Okay. Were all these instances inside
Yes.
inside your home, inside someone else's home?
Inside mine and then my parents' normal house and my parents' like summer house.
How comfortable is she with the summer house and the your parents' house?
I mean, I think pretty comfortable, but we're not. I mean, the summer house, since because of COVID, we were there like way more than usually, but um, it's not like she spends a ton of time there, but she's been there since she was little.
Okay. Um, so how it started isn't out like it's uncommon. Um, where a dog will have a negative experience, and if it's mishandled or either like in the case of where you pulled her away and whatever, that actually is partially why it kept happening or it's continued to happen. Okay,
Okay.
because if two kids get in a fight and you pull them away from each other, you can take them apart and resolve it with the child yourself, and say like, you don't do that, blah, 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 blah. This is what's going, this is how you should handle it. And then we're going to bring you back and you're going to say you're sorry. And then you're going to just move on. Right. And they can do that if they want to do that. Dogs don't. Okay. So what happens is when you pull her away and she's still stuck in intensity, the last thing she remembers is intensity.
Ew.
Okay. So then the next time she sees a dog, she just kicks right back
Okay.
into where she left off. Yeah. So a lot of people do that. Either they'll remove the dog, especially with the smaller dogs, because very simple, boop, right?
Yeah.
And they'll put the dog in a separate room. Uh, they don't, yeah, they don't connect those things. They don't rationalize those things. Like people put their dogs in timeout, and like dogs don't. They don't. What's the word? Like look in. What's that? There's a term for it. Introspective, I guess.
Yeah.
Where they
Contemplate.
reflect. Dogs don't do that. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So what happens is it goes unaddressed, and the last thing she remembers is I spazzed out, right? And then if her intention was to either make that dog leave or to remove the situation, and we're doing that, she's technically getting what she's wanting. So then it's going to become a potential habit. Okay.
Oh.
So
Okay.
it's like a kid. If a kid throws a tantrum for a toy, and if the parents like, I just need this to stop, and they give the kid the toy, guess what happens? Right? Now, like every time the kid wants a toy, it's gonna throw a tantrum. So same thing for dogs. So it's possible that that's what happened. Um, so anything else about Billy, correct?
Yeah.
Anything else about Billy that you think I should know? Or is that pretty much your only concern with her?
I mean, that's my main concern because I like it's hard to even like take her places or like visit my parents because of that. Um, yeah. I mean, she's pretty like obedient, but she's kind of like stubborn.
Okay.
Like if she's like not in the mood, she won't listen, but otherwise she does.
That's not good. Um, so everybody's perception on what's a good dog is different. Mine is obviously very, I guess, biased in a way because I train dogs for a living and I know what
Yeah.
dogs are capable of. Now, me personally, I don't care how people train their dogs. I just care that people do train their dogs and are aware of what the level of control their training is going to provide them. Okay. Now, the main things I care about, of course, are always behavior. Um, I've had plenty of dogs that people do everything wrong. They spoil them. They give them treats all the time. They don't walk them correctly, this and that. But they're non-aggressive. They're like the dopiest, friendliest dogs in the world, right? So I'm
Mhm.
like, well, who really cares? Because the dog's not really an issue to society because they're just so friendly and dopey.
Yeah.
They're just not well trained. So the worst that could happen is if like the dog ran towards the street. Now it's terrible, but it's not so much that they're harming others, is that they're harming themselves.
Yeah.
Okay. So most of the time when people get dogs like that, they really don't care about reliable training because the dog's not aggressive. But for me, I go, well, I don't want a dog running towards the street that I can't make come back because that's how you end up with a dead dog.
Yep.
So, in your case, I'll give you options and explain everything to you. You have more choices because, in my opinion, your case is relatively simple um, because it's only been a couple of dogs and it's not been like everybody.
Yeah.
That's what would make it more difficult.
Okay.
Okay. Now, before reaching out to us, did you do any research?
Um, I'm like about other dog trainers.
No, but on us, just like how we train and the methods we use.
Oh, a little bit. Yeah.
Okay. What did you read up? What did you find out about us?
I guess I was mostly just looking to see if like you did stuff with dogs who had aggressive issue like aggression issues.
I do.
So that was mostly what I looked at.
Okay. So you don't know how we train.
No.
Okay. So I'm going to explain that all to you. That's why we do this consultation. Um, and I'll explain how it works and the theory behind it and all that stuff. Okay. So my specialty is dog behavior, either dog reactivity, dog aggression, aggression towards humans, anxiety, separation anxiety, fear, nervousness. That's what I specialize in. But I'm in dog training. I'm like the bad guy, if you will, okay, because of the methods that I use. But there's a reason why I use these methods, and it's because they're the most reliable. Okay, so Billy, as a dog, is a physical animal. Okay, do you know what that means?
Responds to physical things.
Correct, or uses physical things to set boundaries, right? So in the case of with your friend's dog or your roommate's dog, something happened around the food, right? That's resource guarding, and the dog,
Yeah.
right, and gave essentially, if there was no contact, the threat of I will bite you if you get near my food. Okay, so the conversation sways this way, and then Billy goes, no, right? Right, and the conversation
Yeah.
comes this way now. And then you get this back and forth until you get a collide. And if left unaddressed, they will settle it themselves. Okay. And they also, and I'm not saying that with Billy, but I'm saying in the dog world, if we get conflict like that, they will settle it even if it means death. Okay. So humans, we don't do that, right? For the most part. Humans, like if you get in an argument, like over, I don't know, like because you got overcharged on something at the store, you don't get in a fight and then kill the person,
Yeah.
right? Like we have a conversation, we talk to the manager, we settle it because we're like civilized. Dogs are primal, so it can end in one dog, like if they keep going back and forth, and if like let's say the other, what was the roommate's dog's name?
Baloo.
Baloo. What kind of dog was it?
A Frenchie too, but like
It was funny because I was thinking of French. Was it a blue Frenchie?
nope.
No, okay.
He had like it's like a fawn one, just like she is,
Fine, okay.
but
I
he
like
was
the name
like
of blue.
tall and gangly, and she's like short and
Oh,
not chubby, but like compact.
sure. No, I know what you're talking about. So blue starts it, Billy counters, and they just go back and forth, right? And let's say blue, because you didn't pull Billy out, ended up putting enough conflict on Billy, she might go, okay, I'm good, I'm done. I'll leave you alone and I won't ever come near your food again. Right?
Yeah.
And it's a lot of times it looks worse than it is. Like their teeth are smashing and like they're growling and all that, right? But like nothing ever happens.
Yeah.
It's kind of like people like yelling and screaming at each other. Okay.
Yeah.
But when people see the teeth and all that stuff, it looks ugly. Up until the point where a dog can walk away with several bites, up until a point where one dog could be dead and the other is alive. So they use physicality to settle things. Okay. So in the dog training world, there's many methods. The most common one would be like positive reinforcement, which is with food,
Mm-hmm.
which is great for puppies under 6 months. I use it, I'm not against positive. I just don't use it in certain cases because it really doesn't matter. It doesn't help. It doesn't work. So I'm like, well, if it doesn't work, then why am I even going to bother with it? Okay.
Yeah.
So the tools that we use, or that I'm primarily known for, are using a prong collar or an e-collar. Okay.
Yeah, I've used both of those
You
before.
use both of those. Okay. With Billy?
Yep.
Okay. What kind of e-collar do you have?
It's like one where I push it. So
Correct. But
like
do you know the
to
brand or the
practice like
model?
coming here, like saying here,
Do you know
pressing it until she turns and faces me.
do you know the brand?
Nope. Haven't used it in a while.
Okay. How many levels? Did it have 7 levels, 10 levels, 100
I have
levels?
like a dial you
Okay.
turned. So
Was
I
it a yellow
think like
remote?
100. Like yeah.
Was it a circle remote?
Yeah. And like yellow.
Yellow? Okay. So I know what brand you're using. Okay. So yeah, so e-collar. That's good. Which, by the way, with e-collar, you should have more reliable obedience, but if you're not applying it, and I'll explain why her obedience is selective now. But the e-collar is a super effective tool because it's muscle contraction, it's physical, it's uncomfortable. And it's essentially, I refer to it as a bite on the button. So it allows you to correct or bite your dog whenever she's doing something you disagree with. Okay. But when we're dealing with behavior and obedience, it's two different things. Okay. So like, I'm assuming was she fully off leash trained or just like?
Well, she was like she used to be way better trained than she is now because I got lazy, but she was like trained with a prong collar, like walking like
Okay.
an heel.
Yep.
Um and yeah, she'll still stay on that climb bed, which she learned how to do that with that shocky thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um and she'll stay on there still. And then I learned how to get her to come
Mm-hmm.
with the shocky thing.
Mm-hmm.
I guess off leash, but I never took her off of one that wasn't like I put her on like a long one before, but I was always just too scared to have her fully go off.
Gotcha. Sure. So she knows heel, place, and here.
And sit down.
Okay, so she
She
knows
used to
the
be able
form.
to stay down for like forever until I
She used
told
to
her
be able
she,
to.
huh?
She used to be able to.
Yeah, until I said she was free.
Sure.
Now she won't go down
Was that
unless
your?
I have a treat.
Okay, so that makes things even simpler because there's already control there. It's not been practiced.
Correct.
Okay. Now, so for their dog react, I mean, it's technically dog reactivity, but I think it's just she's gotten out of line. And I think it's because of what happened. And then there's just been no consistent discipline. Okay.
Well, I was scared about, well, I mean, when she freaks out like that, I don't know. I guess I just didn't know what to do in terms of being like, you need to stop doing that.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I understand. So, but in terms of like the obedience stuff though, like when's the last time you like formally use that stuff?
I had her get on the climb bed like a week ago when someone, like a plumber, came over. So she
Okay.
wouldn't bother him.
And what about like the e-collar itself? When's the last time you've practiced with that?
probably like a year and a half ago.
So that's actually the discipline that I'm talking about.
Okay.
Um, I'm just taking notes here. So when it comes to e-collar training, is there any reason why you stopped using it?
Well, I just thought she was as responsive as I needed her to be,
Mhm.
and she was didn't have any problems then, like behavioral problems then.
Sure.
So I just thought that it was fine. I don't like have her really off leash anyway because we live in the city.
Hmm.
So yeah.
Was it a boot camp or did you do it yourself with the
Oh
trainer?
no, I had her go training when she was like 6 months old.
Okay, so at 6 months they started on remote collar.
Something. I don't remember how old she was, but she wasn't one yet.
Okay. No. I mean, so you're on the right track. So I understand the comment of like she's as obedient as I needed her to be, right?
Yeah.
Because everybody's life with their dog does look different. I don't teach stuff that people aren't going to use because then I just teach it and waste their time and money, and then it's not applicable to them. Okay. But it is important that you would continue with the training because it keeps discipline a regular part of her life. Okay. So then a year and fast forward till when she was, I guess, a year and a half, and we stopped the e-collar training. Right now, there's no formal discipline, and now there's no consequence for not performing tasks or whatever,
Yeah.
or like being allowed a lot of leniency in terms of like having to repeat the command a number of times before she does it or whatever it looks like, right? And then, or like you said, on her own time where she's stubborn and selective when she does stuff.
Yeah.
So think of it this way. If you want to step in to stop a behavior, okay, that you don't like, which is more important, more of a major issue, but you can't even get her to like, let's say, recall or come when called consistently. Okay. Those two things can affect each other because it's like, well, if I don't have to come to you every time you call me, then why do I have to stop the fight? Does
Yeah.
that make sense? So when we work with dogs, it's a big puzzle and all the pieces are important. Okay. So like when I come in and like, let's say they have an issue like yours, I'll tell them, the heel exercise is always the most important because it's something that people, almost everyone within the city of Chicago has to walk their dog,
Hmm.
because they live in an apartment or something like that.
Yeah.
So they walk their dog at least 3 times a day, which allows them to practice the leash walking discipline regularly. And that discipline that they practice regularly is what helps keep the dog in check. Okay, so if there's any behavioral issues, that exercise is what helps keeps it so that it doesn't pop up very often if it does. Okay,
Yeah.
so when it comes to addressing her behavior, I'm assuming you're wanting because there's your roommate's dog and then there's your parents' dog.
Hmm.
And obviously, your parents' dog she's going to see again.
Yep.
Okay, what about the roommate?
She doesn't live here anymore. So that dog's fine. That's better at least.
Okay,
But
so then we just have one dog to worry about. But then your concern is what if it starts to happen with other dogs?
yes.
Okay. Um, so, and the dogs that she sees outside are those dogs that she sees on a regular basis, or
I mean, the same dogs walk around the neighborhood really, but I mean, sometimes it's a different one that we've never seen before. Or,
and do you allow her to greet these dogs on the leash?
yeah, usually. I mean, I'm kind of trepidatious now because she's had all these freakouts. But I mean, she used to be like this, like friendly, really friendly dog who wouldn't be friends with everybody.
Sure.
Um, so I would let her, but now I'm kind of like nervous to let her
Okay.
fully say hi.
Sure. So when it comes to greeting on a leash, I personally am not a fan of that.
Okay.
Okay, was she howling there?
No, she's just stretching.
Stretching? Okay, it looked like she was howling. Can't see her. Uh, yeah, so I'm not a big fan of greeting on a leash because one, it's not natural for a dog to greet other dogs face to face. It's very confrontational. Okay. Now humans greet face to face, shake hands, hi, how are you? Dogs actually greet nose to butt.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. So when you greet face to face, you're more likely gonna see confrontation because of the way it's done. Okay.
Okay.
So if that's something you want to do, like you can, and I can give you some insight on it, but I would just say like it's not natural to dogs. I personally don't recommend it because I've had people who've said, my dog went to greet a friendly dog on the leash and then that dog attacked my dog
Yeah.
just out of nowhere, and they're like, why? And I'm like, well, the first thing is, I don't, just because someone says, oh, my dog, I don't like when people say my dog is friendly. Okay.
Yeah.
As they're saying it as a blanket statement, my dog 100% of the time is friendly and there's nothing else in there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But everybody is capable of being friendly, of being unfriendly, of being mean, right? Um, Same thing for the dogs. And maybe they didn't like the other dog's energy. Maybe the way it was approached wasn't, they weren't a big fan of. Maybe it was having a bad day. I don't know. But I tell everybody that every dog is capable of being aggressive. It's just whether or not they're put in a situation in which they feel they need to be aggressive. Okay. So when someone says, oh, that's an aggressive dog, again, I don't like that statement because it's a blanket statement that's saying that dog is aggressive 100% of the time.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So like just with people, I'm social, and you may see like talk to me here and you're like, oh, Jesse seems like a pretty laid back guy. But I get mad too,
Yeah.
right? So that's dogs. So I look at them as just individual creatures, and then there's certain things that trigger them, and it's like, what does this particular dog trigger by?
Yeah.
Okay. So the way I would approach this, there's a couple ways this could work. The one thing I would do is revisit heel, and I would, have you show me what you learned and how you learned it.
Okay.
Okay. Because in my experience, most trainers teach heel incorrectly. Okay.
Okay.
Um, and so if the dog doesn't understand the heel correctly, it's possible that they don't understand the e-collar correctly, which then becomes a problem when we try to correct negative responses. Okay.
Okay.
She should know how to turn pressure on and how to turn it off. Okay. So pressure is the e-collar, is the contraction. So when you're
Yeah.
pressing that button, you're putting her under pressure. She should know how that pressure turns on and how it turns off. Okay, or at least have an idea of it. Because this way, when we delve into the behavioral stuff, if she acts aggressive and I put the pressure on, what do you think she should do?
Well, when I originally learned how to use the thing, the e-collar, they told me never to use it if she's like by a dog because she might think it's from the dog. Okay.
I'm not saying that can't happen, but that's why I said it's important that she knows how it turns on and how it turns off. Because if it's been layered in correctly, that shouldn't happen. Okay.
Okay.
Now it can happen. I actually had a client 2 weeks ago tell me it happened, but there was much more going on. And I go, yeah, that makes sense. And then I told him, take your dog and practice outside of that, and then come back and try again. Okay. So if a dog has a good concept of e-collar, we should not see that problem. Okay.
Okay.
Not that it can't happen, but because that doesn't make any sense. Because if you're at the dog park and she's playing with dogs and you call her and she doesn't come, so what, you just can't make your dog come back now?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that doesn't make sense to me. Um, so the first thing I would do is revisit heel. I would see what you know of it. What does it look like? Okay. And then most likely it's not going to be to my liking, because that's almost always what happens. It's super rare that I'll get someone who shows me a heel. I'm like, wow, that's actually pretty good. So we'll revisit that because that's the baseline for everything.
So we like, or I learned how to do heel with her with like the prong collar.
Sure.
Um, which now my vet told me I need to walk her with a harness or something because Frenchies have back problems. I don't know. So I haven't even used that in a long time because of that.
Like,
But I guess when she was good at it, she didn't like pull on the leash or anything. She just walked right next to me.
okay, so she's only been taught heel with the prong, not the e-collar.
Correct.
All right, well then we'd have to teach you with the e-collar.
Okay.
Okay, because in order for us to work on the reactivity, aggressive responses, we need to have the heel with e-collar. Okay,
Okay.
so that has to happen, and that's typically a 2-class process. Okay, after we get that down, then we can work on the behavioral stuff. Okay, the other stuff really doesn't matter. So the reason why we have to visit the heel is she has to learn e-collar the way I use it. Okay,
Okay.
and then you have to understand how I use it because everybody uses it differently. Okay, once we got the good heel down, it is possible, okay, that it will address those problems. Okay, because it's in some cases when I get dogs where it's inconsistent with the behavior, kind of like your case. Okay, it's inconsistent. Is for me, I go, that's not an aggressive dog. That's a dog that's either being a brat or a bully, or has kind of lost themselves because they've had no formal discipline. Okay, so once we put in formal discipline that's practiced regularly, it helps calm them down. It helps, it teaches them, look, there's consequence now. So now they start to think about things differently, right? Because if you can, like with a kid, if a kid's like being bad and no one is providing consequence, they're just learning, I can get away with this. And I keep
Yeah.
doing it, right? So once you put in consequence, you may see it changes the way she looks at things because she's like, oh crap, like I can't be like that anymore because I don't want to get, remoted or whatever.
Yeah.
Now, it doesn't mean that it will happen. I'm just saying that it can happen.
Okay.
So let's say we do the heel for a couple of classes, and then I go test it out. Go say hi to your parent's dog, right? You go up, she sees your parent's dog. She doesn't do anything. She's just calm. You drop the leash. They're sniffing each other, and then all of a sudden they're just hanging out, right? And then we give it time because I know like she'll just randomly kind of spark this behavior to see if it comes up. Okay. Then you turn around and say, Jesse, I went to my parents' place and she had no outbursts. I go, cool. Right. And then I would provide you with information just in case you see it. But the idea here is that if the issue was just lack of structure and discipline, it should be a real quick process. Okay. Now, if you come back and you're like, hey, Jesse, she saw my parents' dog and she wanted to kill him, then I go, okay, we got some work to do. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Now we have to start working on that.
Okay.
But I don't, it doesn't make sense to assume it's going to happen. So, like, for instance, one of my trainers here that worked with Frenchie recently, who used to go after everyone and everything on a leash, bikers, humans, dogs, just lunging and barking and all that stuff. And the owner thought she was aggressive. And I said, no, it just sounds like she's, has no structure, no discipline.
Yeah.
They did all the classes, and he was a client referral. And the client that referred him was like his neighbor. And his dog and her dog could never play because they would go after each other because of the Frenchie. Okay.
Yeah.
So my trainer does all the classes with him. And on the 6th class, he asked, like, can we see if they'll play together? And he goes, sure. So my trainer shows up and they're already playing together. Okay. And they had never played together before because they couldn't see each other. Right. But because the Frenchie's behavior was under control, there was no more reactivity. There was nothing to jump off from, like the
Yeah.
dog wasn't already intense. So, and we did that we did nothing behaviorally. We just did discipline, heel, sit, all that stuff. But I don't want you to think it's the obedience that fixes the problem. It's the remoting.
Okay.
Okay? It's the contraction because it's uncomfortable. It's the fact that if she does something incorrectly, there's a consequence. That's what changes the behavior, not the obedience of it. Okay. So the way I would look at this is if all you really care about is just the behavior aspect of it, then I would say that could be as short as a 3-class program. Okay. Now, if you're like, well, I care about the behavior and stuff, but I should probably review what she's learned and then like relayer in the remote. Definitely with the here command or the come command, because heal and come are the 2 most important things a dog should know. Okay. Because if she were to ever get off leash, because I know you said you don't take her off leash, but should she ever get off leash, that would be problematic. Okay. Depending on the situation. Then that would be like a 6-class program because we'd be covering the heal, we'd be covering the recall, and we'd be covering the behavior as well. And if you want like a full review of things, then you don't need like because I have 3, 6, 9, and 12-week programs. You would be somewhere between the 6 and 9 if you just wanted to like, how would you say, like re-implement everything again. But then I would tell you like you have to be consistent and practice this and utilize this throughout her life. Otherwise, if you do the class, you do a couple classes on heal, and like maybe we get like the turnaround. You're like, man, she's great. She doesn't do it anymore, and then you stop the e-collar, and come right back.
Yeah.
Okay. Questions so far?
No, I guess. I mean, this makes sense. But what if like, I feel like maybe she's like kind of resource guardy,
What is she resource guarding?
like toys or something.
Is that what's sparking the fights?
Not all. Now it's just vision.
Okay.
But sometimes it was toys, and sometimes it was she just saw them.
Okay, so there's 2 ways to address that. One would be you can't teach a dog to share. It happens. Some dogs are capable of it naturally. Sometimes it does happen, and then sometimes it's just either the dog has a resource or it doesn't.
Yeah.
Okay? So like let's say with your let's say at a dog park. Like let's say she gets a tennis ball, and every time she has a tennis ball, you notice she starts to resource guard it. Then I just make it that she can't have the tennis ball when we're at the dog park because she's not capable of sharing. Okay. So it's a flat rule where I go, nope, we're at the dog park, play with dogs. You're not playing with toys because I know you're going to guard it. Okay. So that's easy because you could just prevent the problem from happening.
Yeah.
Okay. Where I don't allow her to have access to anything. Now, is she resource guarding stuff with you?
Not with me. No, never me.
Okay. But with other dogs?
Yes. Never. Like, although sometimes I think she's guarding me from other dogs.
Yeah, that can happen as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if that's the case, then we would do one of 2 things. One, if I know she resource guards you and I see a dog approaching me, I would either remove myself because then there's nothing to guard, right? Or 2, you have to stop the dog from entering your space.
The other dog.
Correct.
So, like, if I'm visiting my parents and we all want to sit in the living room with the dogs, like, would that not be possible?
No, you can do that. I'm talking about like in a public space.
Okay.
Right? Because in a public space, that would be a gamble. Okay. Now you have a small dog.
Yes.
So not as threatening. But like, let's say you're at the dog park, she's sitting at your feet, and someone else's dog entered your space, and she goes after that dog.
Yeah.
I got liability.
Yeah.
Right? So that's what I'm thinking about. I'm like, well, it's someone's dog. She doesn't know. You're at the dog park. It's community space. The best approach is to avoid the situation instead of trying to force it to happen. Because the other thing is, I have no problem correcting the dog for the behavior, right? But now you're at the dog park. She's got her e-collar on. She's sitting at your feet. Someone dog come over. She goes crazy. You remote her. She starts yipping and crying. Guess what happens?
They think their dog hurt my dog?
No. People come over and go, what are you doing to your dog? Oh my God, you're shocking your dog.
Oh,
Oh my
yeah.
God, you're evil. Yeah. Right. So I'm like, do you want to deal with that? You know?
Yeah.
So, but when it comes to your parents' dog, yeah, that's not a problem.
Okay.
Because that's your parents' dog, right? That's in a setting that's realistic. That is, it's a part of your life, right? So making her adapt to those situations, yes, it's perfectly fine.
Okay.
But like, I wouldn't expect her to be like on your lap and then your parents' dog to be able to just come and cuddle with you at the same time.
Aw,
Okay.
ever again?
The way we would do it is we would have to work around it,
Yeah.
where I would keep her out of my space, bring your parents' dog in first, and then bring in Billy, right? Because if Billy's already here and your parents' dog is coming in, that's where the guarding is coming from.
Okay,
But if
yeah.
you flip it and your parents' dog is here and Billy comes in, we technically shouldn't see anything. Doesn't mean it can't happen,
Okay.
but less likely to happen.
Okay.
Okay. The problem would then be if you have both dogs and your parents' dog gets up and walks away, Billy might pursue. Okay.
Okay.
Now we can push that because it's your parents' dog.
Yeah.
So if you told your parents, like, because you have to understand that you're risking something here, right? Now I know you haven't seen like a full-on dog bite, right? Like punctures and stuff yet. It sounds like
A dog has bit her.
okay, but not her to another dog.
I don't think so. No.
Okay, yeah. So I think of two things. One would be when you're doing that, and we use muzzles, of course, as well. But when you're doing that, you're there's a lot of potential risk. Okay, so if your parents are like, yeah, sure, it's no problem if the lab gets bit or whatever, and you're like, okay, then you have kind of like free reign to just do things, right? But then, like, let's say she goes crazy after the lab and you're trying to correct it, and maybe the lab goes, I'm tired of this, and then reciprocates. Now that's another problem. You see
Yeah.
that? So that's where things get complicated.
Yeah.
So, but anything that's like, with your family or something that would happen, like maybe a friend brought their dog over and stuff, it's more realistic because it's something that would be reoccurring for you.
Okay.
Okay. So if you're wanting more, then that's going to be a longer period of time because I have to educate you on how to go about that process.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, um, behavior isn't as simple as obedience. Obedience is very easy. Put your butt down, go lay on that mat, get your butt over here, right? It's very
Yeah.
mechanical. Behavior is different because you're looking at like the social dynamic of what's going on within the situation. Okay. And it's just being aware of everything that's going on and knowing when to assume that something can potentially happen so that you're ready to correct it. Or if something does happen, as bad as it may be, you're ready to stop it correctly and make her disengage. So like if she flipped out on the lab, I wouldn't pick her up and remove her. She'd be on the e-collar and I'm correcting her and I'm jumping up on the collar. It could be as high as 100. And she goes, bah!
Yeah.
And she runs away from the lab going, holy crap, I don't want to attack you again.
Okay.
Okay. Like you have to be prepared for those things. I'm not saying that's how it's going to happen, but that's like worst case scenario.
Yeah.
Okay. Questions about any of that stuff?
No.
So your end goal would be your parents' dog, right?
Yeah.
Being able to coexist in the same room and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. Uh, behaviorally, the resource guarding, easy to prevent if you just put everything away, for one. Two, if it's like in a space like in the yard or something, easier if you're paying attention because then you can just teach her those things are off limits and there's nothing to guard then.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, but I wouldn't bank on like trying to get her to play fetch with like the lab and share a ball. Okay. I'm not saying that it can't be done because I've done it. I can do it, but it's can you do it?
Yeah.
Okay, that's the hard part. Okay, because I'm a dog trainer. I do this all day, every day. You know, I have like 8 clients a day, um, and I've been doing this for 10 years. Okay, and I think that's what people forget. As I go, yeah, it's doable, but it takes a lot of skill and insight in order to get that done, and it doesn't just transfer to the owner because the owner has to have the same level of insight and ability to recreate those things in order to get that kind of um, to get that to transfer over to them.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, Obedience wise and control wise, is there anything that you need her to do better, or or do you feel like you have a good handle aside from the things that I think she needs to cover?
Well, I mean, she jumps on the furniture, which I like. I actually, I mean, I kind of like it,
Fine.
but recently she's had these back problems, and they told me she's not supposed to jump around as much. So maybe, and she jumps when people come in too, like
Yeah,
a lot.
easy. It's easy.
So,
Yeah, the jumping isn't a problem. It's easy. Um, when did she start having the back problems?
well, it's like something like she just has weird shaped discs, which I guess lots of Frenchies have, but the one like in her lower back is like pinched a nerve or something. Um, and I don't know. Pretty recently, it was like severe enough that I had to take her to the
What would that look like?
doctor. What did it look like?
Yeah.
Like shaking, like couldn't really walk, like couldn't control her bladder. Yeah. But
Okay.
now I give her pain meds every day from so.
Oh well, because that's another factor as well. It's just physical discomfort.
Yeah.
You know, um, if it's coming from a place of discomfort, uh, it's not that you can't stop things, but if she's always in some level of discomfort, even with the pain meds, it does make that difficult or more
Okay.
difficult. Not like hard, like, oh my God, nothing can be done. But I'm just thinking, like, all right, here's a dog that's in some kind of constant discomfort,
Yeah.
and it makes them irritable, just like with humans. You know,
Yeah.
someone who's in constant discomfort, like they're irritable. Except humans don't bite each other.
Yeah.
Or like yell or something, or lose their temper. Whereas dogs escalate to aggression. So I would just keep that in mind.
Okay. I
Um,
mean, she's pretty mellow. Like right now, she was sleeping for like 3 hours and now she's chewing on a toy.
sure. Is she on pain meds?
Yeah, but they don't make her sleepy,
Okay. And so these are just forever or what?
apparently.
Oh well. Okay. Um, yeah, I just factor it in
Okay.
the potential. Okay. So in that case, you're probably more around the sixth class range. Okay. I would let me think. Where do your parents live?
Ohio.
Oh, so you wouldn't be there for a while.
No, probably not until December.
December. Is there any other dog here that she goes crazy with aside from your roommate's dog, old roommate's dog?
Just my old roommate's dog.
Just your old roommate's dog. Okay. Because that's going to make things a little tricky
Yeah.
because we're kind of going in blind, going, this should work, but we won't know till December.
Yeah.
Okay. Um,
I mean, we could go back sooner. It's not like it's that far away, but and I'm working from home, so
okay. All right. What I would probably do here is suggest you do the 3 week.
Okay.
We do the 2 classes on the heel. And this is me going by you just caring about the reactivity and stuff. Okay. Is 2 classes on the heel, a class on behavior, just seeing what she does and everything like that. Okay. And then we can do Zoom classes when you go to Ohio.
Okay.
Okay. So I would see this as like you start the work, you start practicing and re-implementing the stuff. And then fast forward to December when you're in Ohio or you're going to be in Ohio, you can set up Zoom classes.
Yeah.
And then, well, first you go to Ohio, and then if it's like, oh, she's great, then you're good. Or if it's like, no, there's still problems, then we do the Zoom class, and then we have her and the dog, and I can coach you through it.
Okay.
But at that point, you'd already know what my style of training is and have an understanding of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So that's what I'd probably do, unless you want more like the here is the, like I said, the second most is the most important command next to heel. Or if you wanted to like just um, tighten up all her obedience, then I would say that would be a longer program. But if all you really care about is just the reactivity, getting that under control, and going back to your parents' house and being able to have them coexist, then that would be a 3 week and then just some Zoom sessions.
Okay.
Okay. Do you still have your e-collar?
I think.
Okay.
Yeah. I have to look for it.
Sure. So you're going to need that again. It's technically the appropriate collar for Billy here.
Okay.
So I recommend looking for it. If you can't find it, then I would have you transition to one of the brand that I use. Um, I think it's better and more reliable. I've been using them for years. But that's only if yours isn't, if you can't find yours.
Okay.
Okay. And then Maria would send you the make and model for that collar. It's a little bit more pricier than the one that you got. I think the one you got is probably like 179 without tax. So probably like 180 to 190 with tax. Mine runs about 237 with tax.
Okay.
Okay. Now you can get them on Amazon. So we'll send you the make and model. The reason why I suggest Dogtra, which is the brand that I recommend, is because when I've worked with dogs that have had aggression issues, that brand that you had, that's either it's the Educator or eCollar Technologies brand. When I used to use that particular brand, I noticed it was making dogs more aggressive. Okay. Now in your case, I don't think your dog's aggressive, so that's why I'm saying it's okay for you to use. Also, it's appropriate to her size. A lot of times when I see people using that brand of e-collar, it's not the right size for their dog. Okay, because it's meant for 35-pound dogs and under.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the model that I'm recommending for Dogtra is meant for 35 and under as well. However, I've been using them for about 10 years now, and when it's come to like aggression cases, they've always been very consistent, very reliable.
Okay.
Okay. Any questions?
Nope.
Okay. The other thing that you want to keep in mind here is it's getting cold.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you're gonna do the training, and you're doing the heel, like I have my facility here that we can work in. We've been training at Oz Park because of COVID, because I don't do the home to home unless people. I mean, I do home to home, but it's more expensive now. Now I do training at Oz, so there's an option. We can train at Oz or at my facility, or I can train in home, but that comes at a higher rate, right? Travel to you, we train in your neighborhood, okay? But if you start training, let's say in a couple of weeks, the temperature is going to drop, and you want to work outside, it's going to be cold for Billy, okay?
Yeah.
So then we have the option at my facility, obviously. But then when you walk Billy, you still have to reinforce the training despite the weather.
Yeah.
Okay. Because then it's kind of pointless to like do the training but not reinforce it, because that's what's gonna be the baseline for the December trip. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Anything else or any other questions?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. I feel like your case is fairly simple.
Okay.
I'm hoping. I've had some Frenchies in my career. But yeah, I feel like it's inconsistent, so I don't think there's a real issue there. I think she's just got out of line a little bit. She needs to get straightened up.
Okay.
If you want to learn more about how we train and the way we use the e-collar, like I said, we've been recording the training sessions. If you go to our YouTube channel, you can watch me working with clients, and it's completely uncut for the most part. Um, so you can see how I teach it, and we have also like some behavioral stuff going up and things like that. So it helps give you an idea of how we operate. Okay.
Okay.
So if you need anything else, you let us know. Otherwise, Maria will follow up with you, and you can mull it over. And
Okay.
then if everything sounds good to you, she'll get you all set up, and then we'll get you started as soon as we can.
Okay.
Okay.
Cool.
All right, Emily. Well, we appreciate your time, and if you need anything else, you let us know.
Cool. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Bye bye.
Bye.